So the new year has started off. Who would say the new year has started off in a strongly positive way?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
What's
Definitely.
what's behind that? Why do you say that?
We've had a lot of changes on our end. We released 3 team members towards the end of the year,
Mm,
and we moved everybody out of our office. So that was really nice. I had my professional organizer come to our office and completely do the whole thing. So that was visually amazing.
nice.
We added in a CRM accountability calendar for everybody. So breaking up our calendars to having like an actual organized set of tasks that everybody is responsible for. I would actually love at some point folks' opinions on the performance tracker for their teams in the CRM backend if they use it and if they find that it's accurate. Because we're going to be headed in that direction. But yeah, those are a lot of shifts.
Great, thank you. Who else raised their hand? Did I see Ben? Did you raise your hand, Ben Pinnell? Did I see your hand go up there?
Yeah, no, we've had a hot start. I mean, the end of last year is definitely a little slower. I think a lot of us felt the squeeze last year. So, second week of the new year, we've just been busy. Buyers are back, ready to move. Sellers are ready to take action. So I think the headlines got to people, and we're seeing a lot of movement on our end.
That's
Really
great.
glad to hear it. Who else? I'm really curious, not just that things are going well, but like how do you account for it? What's behind the movement or success that you're experiencing? Obviously, Nicole took a lot of action there for her team. And I'm just wondering who else? What is it that's behind? Ben?
With word out that interest rates are coming down this year,
Yeah.
buyers have been popping their heads out in New York. We have inventory, a couple of our listings that were priced very well, 5-6 months on the market, we're now in contract.
Yeah.
And they're actually 2 of them are finance deals. Both buyers are planning to refinance when rates come down.
Nice.
I'd echo all that
Yeah.
here in Boulder. I mean, our messaging in the fourth quarter when it was pretty slow was, hey guys, this isn't going to last. To buyers specifically, like get in the market because everybody else is going to jump in by the second half of next year. And we actually got a few buyers who understood it and bought in and got some deals 3 weeks ago that I tell you wouldn't happen today because our market started or our selling season has started.
Got it.
Yeah, I forgot who on one of the last calls somebody said the spring selling season is going to come early this year, and it certainly is.
I feel like our buyers that we've all the new buyers that we've talked to so far this year are all actively already making offers, where I feel like sometimes it is taking them a little bit longer to warm up and really dive in. We ratified, I think, a few contracts last week from people who we had talked to within the week for the first time. So people are jumping a lot faster. But it's still kind of weird here. There's still we have multiple offers on a listing, and it only one 2 of the offers weren't even at asking. So I don't know. I think it depends on the neighborhood and price point and all that. But for the most part, I think people are acting a lot quicker.
I thought the whole new commission structures were going to be an issue in New York, but the last couple of pitches that I've gone on also, the sellers understand that you want to pay a buyer's agent. So that fear is completely gone for me already.
Good to hear.
Yeah, that's what we're saying too, Ben, is I take it as a joke, right? I sit there and go, hey, by the way, the lawsuit. So I have to sit here and tell you that commissions are negotiable. If you don't offer a buyer commission, I have no interest in listing your house. You're going to pay it 2.5%. And they don't say a word. They're like, yeah, I get it. And I literally make it a joke. I go, yeah, I'm supposed to tell you this. I'm supposed to tell you it's negotiable. If you don't want to offer a buyer's commission, go find another agent. And they go, oh, no, it totally makes sense.
I love that you say it like that.
Yeah, super casual. And I just go, yeah, I'm supposed to say it this way. The other thing is with the buyer, I go, by the way, I did the same thing. I just said, you probably heard about this lawsuit. All it says is basically negotiation for commissions. It's negotiable. If the seller doesn't pay, you have to pay. Does that make sense to you? And they're like, yeah. I go, okay, good. Let's go.
Yeah.
Go look at some houses.
Do you discuss that you're going to include it in your offer on being paid by the seller, or no? They don't even
No, I just say you understand that, right? I mean, I actually think it's great for the industry. You know, it literally allows us to have better conversations. I think it's, you know, every once in a while people would be like, how do you get paid? I mean, really, you know, first time home buyers and stuff like that. Like, you know, so I think it's good.
Good.
I
I'm
think
glad you're positive about it.
The compensation being the cooperating commission being like published publicly, I think has helped the conversation tremendously, because you're like our buyer clients can see what's being offered on a property, as opposed to, you know, whatever it was 3 or 4 years ago where it was like, you know, it wasn't publicly visible. I think that it's just one more thing that makes that conversation a lot easier.
Does anybody run into problems with that conversation? And if so, what?
I've only had it come up one time. That's it.
What was that
It's
conversation?
been, it's been this way for us for a couple years out here on the West Coast. So it's just now that we have to get it in writing. So it's been pretty smooth.
We've had buyer's agency for like 20 years.
Mm.
But now it's just, I think beforehand it was like, oh, I don't even know why they have this language in here. Of course the seller's going to pay. And now, you know, to your point, Butch, it becomes sort of more of a formal conversation, but like a lighthearted formal conversation.
Is anybody seeing issues with the developers though? Any new development come on at 0% or 1% where you are?
We had, I showed something to a buyer and they were offering flat fee $5,000 commission. That was it.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, okay, we don't love this one.
We had that during the last, like during the COVID, there were a couple of the national builders that went to 1%. You know, they were at 5%. And then whenever COVID hit, they dropped to like 2 originally, then they dropped to 1. And they were that way for a year and a half. Now they're back up to offering bonuses and everything again, because now they're struggling again. So
Okay.
Developers in the city are offering out 3 to 4%, even on hot projects.
I think too, what we're seeing out here is the CEOs are really starting to get people back to work or demand it. It hasn't fully materialized yet, but I do think we're going to see some activation where, you know, there's a zero tolerance from the CEO level with employees. Traffic has already in San Francisco just sucked since the beginning of the year, which is a great sign, you know, and for all the bad press out there, you know, I really think that that's something to that we can all focus on in terms of like, hey, you're moving around, you know, now's the time. So anyway, I don't know if that helps. But we're definitely seeing people having to come to work begrudgingly, and I think it's good for us.
Yeah, we've got that out here too, Butch, in Seattle. Amazon, Google, Facebook, everybody's back to work almost.
Yeah, they used to recommend it, like, hey, we'd like you back. And now, like, I love the CEO from Broadcom. He's like, if you don't work at the office, you don't work at Broadcom. That's that Hawk Tran. I mean, that was great.
Well, and I think even the ones that aren't being that strong about it, I think it's, you know, it's implied that you're not going to be the one promoted. You're not going to be the one up for whatever else if you're not walking into the office.
Bain had a nice come to Jesus a few months ago.
By the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but like in California, it's so weird. I'm going to Southern California this weekend on Southwest. The tickets are more expensive to go to Newport Beach from San Francisco than it is to go to New York. I went to New York. That flight was like $250 on JetBlue, and Southwest is like $450. I don't know what's going on, but I think people are living in San Diego and Newport Beach and working like 4 days a week in San Francisco. It's really weird. Have you seen this, Ben? Have you seen the fucking airlines? Like, it's crazy.
I haven't seen flights to San Fran, but yeah, flights in general have gone up ridiculously. It's insane.
Literally
But
last week we were in
true.
New York and it was like,
Yeah, New York seems to be one of the cheapest flights for some reason. But yeah, even Texas has gone up like 4x. It's insane.
Yeah, I just booked that Fort Worth. It was like 750 each way.
Yeah,
Oh,
it used to be
wow.
like
Yeah.
$90 in the
Wow.
COVID days.
And they are filling all the seats now too. You know, it's I mean, it's a good time to be in the airline business. There's so much pent up demand, and obviously it's still very competitive. I used to be in the airline business for 15 years, and you know, I mean, as far as pricing goes, the marketing manager for various regions have like total emperors, you know, power over setting rates, and sometimes you find some crazy stuff in there. You know, like I remember for a while I was working for an international airline, and from, you know, New York to Bangkok was actually New York to Tokyo to Bangkok, and the flights were about 40% less to fly to Bangkok than it was to fly to Tokyo, even though it was, you know, going to Tokyo first and then change planes and go to Bangkok. And so people got wind of it eventually, and they started all booking Bangkok and just forgetting that second flight, and so those seats were going empty. And you know, those kinds of like mismatches happen. So it is a little crazy. It doesn't always make sense, but unfortunately, you know, that's what it is.
So speaking of flights, I've had 3 new buyer conversations so far this year of people moving from the West Coast to DC so that they can have easier flights to Europe. I've never seen that as like
Right.
a thing before. One from San Diego, one from Seattle, and one from Colorado. So
I've got the same out here coming in from the East Coast to the West, just so it's easier to get to China.
yeah, so funny.
Mhm.
I've never seen that, and I've had 3 so far this year.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Really interesting to find out, if you could, you know, how often those people are going, why are they going, you know, if it is people taking jobs where they need to commute, it could make sense. Kind of a crazy step,
So
but totally makes sense.
2 of them, one has family over there, so they just want to get over for family, and then 2 own businesses where they can work from wherever, but they do a lot of business in Europe.
Schedule that with you that time.
All right. So great to see everybody here. We were talking on the last call, for those of you who were with us, about mastering different areas of the business. If you remember, Chirag was talking about his conversations with Darren Hardy, who started Success Magazine. And he asked Darren, you know, how he had been so successful in his career. And he said, I'm going to tell you the easiest thing, and anybody can do this, and it doesn't even cost money, but this is a guaranteed success factor for your business. If you want to be successful, he said, all you need to do is pick one area of your business and focus on mastering that area, focus on engaging yourself fully in that area of the business for, yeah, let me see if I can mute everybody here. Hold on. All right, could everybody just mute themselves? For some reason, I can't mute you for a moment. Thanks.
I think it's Ethan.
Yeah, it's me. Sorry.
Ethan, if you can unmute, that might help. Thanks.
Yep.
So Chirag was talking with Darren Hardy, and Darren said, look, the secret of my success and the secret of anybody's success is pick one area of your business, focus on it for 90 days, master that area of the business. You do that for a year, you've mastered 4 areas of the business. 2 years, 8, 3 years, 12. Who wouldn't succeed if they mastered 12 different areas of their business? And so we were talking about this last time, and Chirag went around the room and he said, you know, what would you guys like to focus on mastering in your business? And looking back at my notes, I saw that some of the answers were finances, drilling into expenses, where we're using where we're spending. Another person said creating a flow chart and following through. Another person said market share. Let's see what else we had there. Here we go. Let's see who else was on that call. Let's see. Nicole was on that call. You weren't sure at the time, I believe. That was my notes anyway. Allison was there, and you said spend mornings in more of a lead gen mindset. Remember, you said working in the business in the morning and on the business in the afternoon. Evan was there, and he said, I want to focus on how to keep my team engaged. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of follow up on those conversations, thinking about this is a new year. Does the calendar just turn and you just do the same thing you've always done? And if so, you'll probably get some version of what you've already gotten. Obviously, with a little bit of a tailwind in the market, things could, you know, turn in your favor a little bit more. But thinking actively about leading your business and managing how you master various parts of the business. I have 3 simple questions for you guys to think about in your small group discussion. I'll post these in chat so you guys can have them. First is, what is it that you want to focus on? If you were to focus on one area of your business for 90 days, what would that be? You know, why is that important to you? Let me put this in the chat. Secondly, what would your goal be in doing that? Like, what's success look like? What does, what do you see yourself being able to do, or being able to know, or being able to understand or connect as a result of that 90 days of focused effort towards mastery? And third, most importantly, what are one or two specific actions that you could take right now to move yourself in that direction? And this is the point, right? It's easy to say here, oh, I want to get better at marketing, or I want to get better at the finances, or I want to get better at, keeping my team engaged. That's great. But, ideas and dreams are not, they don't go anywhere. The question is, what do you want to do to get there? And so for Laura, for example, documenting my process and systems at scale. Perfect. So, what does that mean? Well, that means maybe I need to, block one block a week for an hour to just sit down and start going through the 12 things that I need to document, and work on each one for 1 week. Done in 12 weeks, done. I've mastered that part of the business, right? So the point here is to challenge yourself, not just to think, what would I like to do better? But if I'm going to commit to focusing on something for 90 days to really master that part of the business, what are the actions that I need to make time for in my calendar? Because remember, your calendar should always be tied to your goals, right? Calendar is not just this thing that tells us where to go. It should be directly related to the goals that you've set for yourself or the business. So those are the three questions. I will put them into the chat for each breakout, so you'll be able to see them in case you forget. Everybody got it? Any questions? All right, I'm going to give you about 25, 30 minutes for this. Let me move Ethan over. I'm going to put him in those guys. All right, and so, yeah, Laura and Lindsay, if you guys have the same goal, great. It's a great conversation to follow up with after we're done today. Anyway, let me put you into the groups. We'll go.
David, did Candace
come back? Yeah.
Did Candace get in? She was in the WhatsApp trying to get in.
Candace is, I don't see Candace listed here in our breakout rooms. Why is
Oh,
that?
is she? Is this are we considered cohort B?
Yeah, it's cohort B, right?
Okay, she's trying to get in.
Okay, well, if she can get in, then I will add her to a group.
And
Okay.
David, quick question for you. For the mastermind program moving forward, are you guys, unless I'm missing them, are you guys going to start sending emails again with all that are coming up? Because I feel like there hasn't been much communication recently.
So you're saying like follow-up emails?
Yeah, like after the calls, what happened on the calls, what's going to happen on the next call.
Yes, if that's of value to everybody, then yes, we want to do that. So please, thumbs up from Butch. Okay, anybody else if we do this, we want to make sure that you guys are going to reference it at some point. Do you see yourself doing that?
Yes, I think it's
I think it's super important, because not everybody can be on these calls, and then you see what you missed and you don't feel like left out. Like I missed a couple calls. I feel like I haven't seen everybody in a long time, and I miss you guys.
Got it. Yep, got it. And
too,
let me
Butch.
ask this question, related question. How valuable is it for you guys that we record these calls? Are you likely to go back and look at the calls afterwards if they're recorded?
No, not for me.
I'm seeing
No.
a yes and a few no's. Okay, got it. I'll talk with Chirag about it, and I apologize for not having those things for every call. We'll get on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll put you into the groups till about 11:45 or so, and then we'll come back and we'll hear from a few of you on what you guys discussed. See you in a bit. Okay, welcome back. So I'm really curious, in listening to your colleagues, did you hear people talking about an area of their business that was similar to one that you've been thinking about, or is it something very different? Let's hear from a few of you. What is the area of your business that you would think of focusing on for a period of time? And importantly, what would be at least one step that you could take to move yourselves towards mastery of that area? I see Nicole smirking. Is that because of this or something else?
This has got Laura's face all over her.
Yes, it does.
You
we
take-
had a great breakout.
What was great about it?
Basically, Nicole is saving me months of my life.
Great.
She's just essentially taken the time and mastered all the things that I've carved out time in my calendar this January or February and March to go over with my director of ops. Today included for 4 hours after I leave this call. So
this is one of the reasons why we have this group, everybody. No matter
So
what it is
fantastic.
you'd like to master, probably somebody else in the group has already mastered that, or has some tips or some tricks or some skills or experience or something that you can draw on. So as we hear from a couple of you, listen to the others. And, you know, if they're interested in an area, they're going to be working on an area that you're also interested in, make sure to follow up with them after the call and say, hey, I'm also interested in that. You know, I'm going to be looking at that maybe later this year or later the next quarter or something, and connect offline, because, you know, that's where you can save yourself tons of money and time. So let's hear from a couple of you. What's a specific area of your business that you want to focus on mastering? And what would be one step you could take to get there? That's good. Let's hear from someone else.
Okay, so Ben, Paige, and I were talking about all of us want to focus more on being more intentional on our lead generation and also our database activity.
Yep.
So Ben has a call with a group today about like getting his CRM organized and stuff. And then Paige was talking about how she goes to 2 different coffee shops every day intentionally to kind of like see and be seen and chat with people. And I've been saying like, I want to spend my morning in lead generation. So I'm like, okay, I think maybe what I'm going to do is pick a couple different coffee shops or different places in town and go and like do my stuff from there. And then hopefully also, you know, see people on there. So kind of like killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Got it. Thank you. Smart move. So mastering lead gen means when you look back over the last 6 months, you have actually executed the lead gen activities on 90% of the blocks that you set for it. That's mastery. You know, mastery, we're not talking here about focus. We're talking about mastery, right? Mastery means mastering that particular space. Like, anybody ever see Beat Bobby Flay? TV show. He's this great chef, and these other accomplished chefs come on and they get to choose the dish that they are going to make, and he's going to make too. And then they give it to the judges. He kicks their ass every time on their own dishes. That's a guy who has mastered cooking. And so when we talk about mastery here, we're talking about being able to really play with all the elements that are in there. So if it's about lead gen, you know, part of that is understanding what takes me out of being successful. What are the practices that I need to be doing to be successful? What other things do I need to get rid of or pass to somebody else, or otherwise, you know, clear the space so that I can be successful? Is it about the way that I'm talking to people when I'm doing those particular things that, you know, I can be more successful at? Mastery would suggest that you can do all of these things and you come out with the outcome that it's happening, and it's happening extremely well. Thanks, Allison. Who else? What's an area of your business that you think you'd like to master, and what's a step you take?
Our group talked a little bit about collaborations, like with wealth managers, financial advisors, private money, hard money people, and just the opportunity of, if you're trying to throw events and whatnot, you can really have access to not only more money for a better, bigger event, but just different things that you wouldn't normally have access to. So Butch was talking about some success he's had with that. I've had some success with that. But yeah, I think just kind of a focus on using your resources in collaboration with other professionals who want to get out there, but maybe aren't as good at marketing as we are or talking as we are. So just kind of having that back and forth.
Yeah, great. So evidence of mastery there would be that you have a Rolodex of names that you can call on that can provide the services or the funding or whatever it is that you need when you need it, right? If you haven't mastered that, then you don't have those relationships in place yet. And so mastery would be, you know, what kind of relationships do I need? Why do I need them? Who are the right people? Am I getting the right people who want to be in this kind of a relationship with me and my business? You know, if you've done that right, then yeah, you've got that. Right. Thanks.
That's just a thought on that. I mean, in this interest rate environment, there's probably a lot of lenders that would be willing to co-sponsor or, you know, leverage a joint marketing effort. I'm just thinking out loud, but like, that's probably low-hanging fruit for an effort like that.
So, you know, you could set a goal. If you wanted mastery here, you could set a goal of establishing 3 relationships over the next 90 days with people, you know, that are vendors or supporters or affiliates of some kind that allow you to do something that you want to do because they want to do it too. And so it's about, you know, making a list of what are the things that you want. Where do you think you can get them? Who might be the supplier of that kind of thing? And then starting to build a relationship with those folks, see who's interested in partnering with you in that way, and developing in them a desire to be in this relationship with you. All right. Thanks, Ethan. Who else? Let's hear one more.
Ethan, you should go.
What I don't, what stuff I want to focus on?
Yeah.
Which part? I feel like I rambled for a while. My kind of critical path is just getting my guys, the two guys on my team, sort of pointed in the right direction. And one thing we talked about was, and when I'm asked this, sometimes I just forget on the spot, but better utilizing the resources that you guys, meaning David, Chirag Shah Coaching, have provided for both, Compass back-end training sessions and the stuff that you have on your platform to help them get going. And something that Nicole shared with me was having them focus exclusively on buyers pitches, just as they, sharpen the tools in their toolbox for the start of the year, rather than like all these other different efforts. And I think that's a really simple, smart strategy that we're going to implement.
So, you're talking about performance management. And as a leader of a team, it is an important factor in your success to manage the performance of those around you at a high level, at the highest level maybe they're capable of performing at. And so how do you get them not just pointed in the right direction, but how do you make sure they stay there? Part of it is absolutely having them know that there are resources available. What are those resources? Where are they? How can they leverage them? Part of it is keeping them at that level, right? Like sometimes it's like a normal kind of ebb and flow over the course of the year. Maybe people have something going on with their family and it takes their focus off their work a little bit. That's fine. How do you need to be there for them at that particular time, right? Or maybe there's something else that's important to their career that they want to learn and grow over time. Are you aware of what that is? Are you making any effort to support them in that? Because, that kind of support is what people are looking for. Very often what motivates some people is the opportunity to learn. And so if you're not sure what motivates your people to perform, you should understand what that is. You should have some conversations. For some people, it's they want to make as much money as they can. Fine. For other people, it's they want to learn new skills. For other people, it's they want to be part of a high functioning team and feel like they have a role in that. Or maybe something else, right? And so part of the performance management is making sure that whatever their motivation is there for them so that they have the spirit to follow through as well as the tools. Thanks for sharing that, Ethan. Anybody else want to volunteer someone else to go? Who heard something that you thought was interesting or useful for everybody to hear about here?
I kind of want to hear more about what Paige is doing with stopping into coffee shops and how she's leveraging that. And 2 a day, I can't imagine.
Yeah, that was pretty much all she said. She said she goes to Starbucks every morning, just to get her coffee, and then she goes to like a more local spot in the afternoon to get a coffee. And
Okay.
she goes, I do this intentionally to see people. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but it doesn't sound like there's like a formal system tied to it, but she just like has worked that into her routine so that she's constantly out at places that she knows like her sphere of influence and like clients would go to.
Okay, so just the casual run-in.
Yeah.
She's not sitting there working. She's just grabbing a
She
cup
says
of coffee.
sometimes she grabs a
Okay.
cup of coffee and sometimes she will sit and work. And so how I was thinking about it, because I'm really trying to spend at least an hour every morning in my CRM. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll just do it there. So then I'll go know that it's like a different mental space than when I'm sitting at my desk or sitting like where I normally work at home, sort of like different shift, and then, be more intentional about that.
Allison.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I do that regularly, and it's always beneficial. I probably, like, we practice, part of the ninja system is like have 50 conversations a week with people in your sphere, and I have found without fail that and that's a number I've actually tracked to, and I've without fail, like probably once a day I'll see someone from my sphere, a past client, somebody that maybe I could serve or refer me to, that I get to have like an engaged conversation with. I think it's totally worth the $4.50 for the fancy latte.
I think it's really just about, real estate's about timing and being top of mind. And so, I'll go to the country club to hit balls at the driving range or whatever, and just seeing people there. I will be kind of intentional about that, but I've heard other people go do the coffee route or, fancy bar, hotel nearby or whatever. Just one conversation leads to something else that, would have never happened.
Well, and just like tying into what you said about the ninja on the 50 conversations, like they also have a form that's like a Monday morning meeting or something that I heard on like a call that someone else mentioned. And I will not say that I've been religious about it, but I have like most weeks this year, I've started just at least glancing at it and thinking like, okay, who do I want to invite to coffee or lunch or cocktails this week? Like, who is it important that I get in front of? Like, I don't know. I thought it was like a really good way to just kind of like jog your memory of being more intentional. Like I do all this stuff, but it's usually like, I think of it, at random times instead of like being more intentional and like kind of making a list and like scheduling it out. So
I'm curious, have any of you guys listened to Lance Pendleton's Simple Six workshop? It was about CRM. No,
No.
you should go back and listen to it. Allison, you especially, and Laura, you especially, because I
okay.
listened to it and this is how I came up with our team's CRM accountability calendar. The two biggest things that they're responsible for in their CRM are identifying one person out of their A+ category. So I have them organize CRM out of A+, Sphere B, and Sphere C. And their A+ is obviously like their top tier, Sphere B is like the mid tier, and then Sphere C is people they either don't know or they just don't care about. And they're responsible, there's 6 things out of the CRM calendar every Tuesday, but one of the big ones is identifying one person out of Sphere A that they have to call and just reconnect with. And then there's 5 calls out of Sphere B that they have to do. There's other things, but with those 6 calls, you'd be surprised how easily it is to get like coffee on the books. And usually what he says is Sphere B is where the bulk of the money is lost, because usually those are the people that you're forgetting about the easiest.
Okay,
Everybody.
thank you.
We're at
And you
time.
said it's Lance Pendleton's Simple
Yeah.
Sticks is the title?
Simple Six method. He has like 4
Okay.
workshops.
Okay,
They're free. You can get back to them.
Love
Okay.
the collaboration today, everybody. Thanks for throwing that out, Nicole. Big,
Mhm.
big, tip for everybody. And Laura, definitely follow up with Paige, and anybody else, with questions about the stuff, follow up with Paige or Ethan. They're obviously out there doing this. And, one conversation can lead to a simple act that makes a big change for you. Remember that going out to a Starbucks or wherever, that's a how. That's a pathway towards a particular goal. If the goal is to meet more people or whatever, it could be really good depending on how you do it. And I'm sure Ethan and Paige probably have a couple other hints, little things that they do, like they take the table by the front window or closest to the door or something like that, right? If you check in with them after this call, you'll probably learn some more stuff. So thanks, everybody. And also, we'll take your feedback into mind, make sure that we're giving everybody these summaries after the calls. I think that the summaries after these calls are a little bit tougher to get value from, because a large part of the call is in your peer group conversations.
Or also like an outline, maybe even just an outline of what's going to happen for the rest of the current mastermind program,
Yep.
just to know what the plan is.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Thank you guys for the feedback. Always happy to get more feedback. Send me or Chirag an email or text or whatever anytime. So
Cool.
glad to be here.
thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Bye,
David.
guys.
Bye,
Good seeing everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
See everyone.